Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Burger. I'm Carolyn Romo, the Executive Director of the New Mexico Beef Council, and I am here with Boe Lopez, who sits on our board as an ex officio member and represents the state of New Mexico on the Cattlemen's Beef Board. Boe, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I always think it's important to do these kinds of things, and not always very good at them, but we make the best of them.
Yeah, well, I so appreciate it. We're here at the New Mexico Farm and Livestock Bureau event, and I kind of maybe voluntold Boe, so thank you for being here. So first off, will you introduce yourself and give your background? Just talk about who's Boe.
So Boe, just Boe's plain old Boe. I'm Boe Lopez from Springer, New Mexico, and fortunate enough that we have a few little ranches, and some of them go back generations. I mean, on my dad's side, it was his mom's dad that started it on that side, and then on my mom's, it was my grandmother's dad that started it on that side, and then somehow through inheritance and other things, and we've purchased and whatnot, and so we've been able to put a little piece of land together and have our ranch that we're proud of, and we just feel fortunate to get to do it. And so along the way, we've been active in a lot of things. It was always preached to us, to volunteer, to donate, and to give back. And so my family's done that. My grandpa Charlie was very active in Springer things, and so in fact one of the streets is named after him in the Garcia Salazar Circle because he was instrumental in help getting HUD housing in Springer. And then my uncle Charlie was on various boards and councils, and that's how I started into politics. Is after his stroke, he asked me if I wanted to run for his position, and he would help me, and I did. And I was in there on. I was elected in March, and he passed away in May, so I kind of got cut short with that. But overall, and then now currently, my mom has served on the Beef Council, and she's on the school board, and so then of course I've served on the County Farm Bureau, the State Farm Bureau, the New Mexico Cattle Growers, now ex officio on the Beef Council. I'm on the Soil Commission. I'm chairman for the Colfax County Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm on the advisory board for the Ag Group for the State Land Commissioner's Office. So, and then of course I've been trustee, mayor pro tem, and mayor for the town of Springer. So just kind of wide variety of experiences, backgrounds, but I think they've all been successful because of the ag background and the principles that we learn within the ag community, and its honesty and hard work and respect. And I think those are things that have helped me be successful in all the endeavors I've adventured into.
Oh man, I think that's wonderful. I think it's really really cool, and probably one of my favorite things about you is that you are a volunteer in so many ways. You're putting yourself out there, and I know sometimes we're at home saying, "Oh, we don't like the way something's going," right? Well, you're not at home saying that, right? You're involved. You're a voting member of organizations. You're trying to make an impact on the world, and I think that's absolutely aspirational.
And many a times you get a little pressure, some heat, because you do have to make challenging decisions, being on these different boards and being a part of different organizations and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's my opinion of that day, with the knowledge and the resources I had available to myself. And so it's not always 100% right, and we're going to have some things that sometimes we have to go back and revisit, but at the end of the day, I'm giving it my best. And so that's all you can ask of anyone in any of these positions, because I encourage more people to get involved and actually take that step out there and do it. It's easy to stay on the sidelines and critique. And I used to be a critiquer. And when you get involved and you get more information and you know more about the background of things, it can change a perspective. And I think we've seen it happen even just on the Beef Council. I mean, I know us and others, used to question the additional increases, and it's more than bumper stickers, and it's more than meals that we're sponsoring. And there's a whole lot of things that go on behind the scenes that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and not many people will take the time to actually go investigate and do some research to see what it is that their dollars actually really doing for them. And a lot of times we don't see it because it didn't just directly deposit an extra dollar into our account, but it's the overall environment that encompasses this whole umbrella of all the moving parts that the industry has to deal with and work with, and sometimes the biggest part is communication and telling the story.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that if you do anything with good intentions and understand that it's okay to be wrong sometimes, we can change our minds. And like you said, we're doing the best we can with the information we have now. And even, with specific to Beef Council, is we're doing the best we can with how we understand. And I'm always trying to say, too, that if someone has questions or comments, call me. I put my cell phone out all kinds of places. Let's talk. Teach me, because I need to be and I want to be an open to learning and trying to be. That's why I've been on ranches, right? I got to come to your ranch, and because I think the important thing is I should be learning. And in anything, right? That's a great life lesson. If we understand that it's okay to be wrong, it's okay to change our minds, and any definitive strong opinion sometimes is dangerous, right? You have to understand there's both sides to every story, and that I always think back in my mind of a good example is when I was a kid, I thought this particular brand of truck was the truck. It was the coolest truck. And then I realized, I grew up and I'm like, well, I could only afford this truck. And then I grew up a little bit more, well, this one's got more leg room so that if I have to sit next to my kid in the back seat, this one's better. And so I still won't even put out there necessarily what truck I like, because I don't know, it might change. And so just that strong opinion on anything, the more we can learn to just be open to others' opinions and understand that we're not always right is a way I strive to be.
For sure. And compromise is a big part of anything that we deal with. And in a changing environment like we see currently right now with what the beef industry is experiencing, we're having some very volatile days on the market. And so it has been, it's a great time to be in the industry, but at the same time, it still has had some ups and downs along the way. And so that's kind of what we've got to remind ourselves, is that's what we're putting into, is to help protect our industry against some of these things that arise. It's amazing what one sentence can do to change things, and how they can use that for excuses, and how impactful it can really be on a global market. So that's where we're at. But like I say, that's my whole goal on being a part of all these things, is just to try to do our best to get the information out there. And that's why we've invited you, earlier this year to our beef promotion meeting that we had in the Northeast for the producers up there. And I think it was a great meeting, that even though, there's 25 people that show up, but in that group, there was some in there that had really strong questions for us, and we answered them, and I think it left them with a better feeling of where their dollars are going, and the justification behind collecting additional dollars. And I think they had a resource now where there's a phone number and a face to go with this phone number, that when these questions come up, that they can actually call and get a solid answer, or they can have our annual report available, or those kinds of things to back up, to show where it's really going and what we're really doing. And we're not just trying to take more money from anyone and not give them some sort of benefit back. So
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I think for the Beef Council, so if you're a consumer listening, we've probably talked about it before, but we every time a beef animal is sold in New Mexico, we get 50 cents to $1.50, right? Well, some of that is optional, and some producers aren't sure they want to give into that money, and that's okay, right? My message has always been, or in the last year, my message has been, it's your money, it's your decision, and we respect that, and there's a 50 cents of the required dollar that has to come, or that comes to us, right? So there's a required dollar, you have to spend it, and then there's 50 cents that stays in New Mexico. So even if you opt out or you don't want to send us more money, that's okay. That's a personal decision. And I still want you to pay attention to what we're doing at the Beef Council, because 50 cents of your money has to come to our organization. So 50 cents goes national as well. So you should be paying attention there too. But that 50 cents stays in New Mexico. And so, anytime we can talk to producers and just explain to them what we're doing, they have a right to know. Even we were talking about the hot air balloon today with a producer, and he said, oh, somebody was teasing me that it's my balloon. And I said, it is your balloon. It's your balloon. It's Bo's balloon. It's every board member's balloon. It's every rancher in New Mexico. It's their balloon, right? This hot air balloon that's a beacon of beef, that's a really fun advertising tool. It belongs to the ranchers, right? It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't just belong to the Beef Council. It's something. So anything you can get behind it, and that's obviously like a tangible asset. But everything we do belongs to the ranchers. So we're always open to feedback. So
yes, and I think that's been one of the most beneficial aspects of getting on the Cattlemen's Beef Board was seen on the national level of what really is taking place and how the contractors have to apply and they have to present to individual committees. And it's not just, I had some misconceptions and maybe some misinformation of how some of these things are taking place. And so that's why we're on these boards. So we're open for people to contact us with their different ideas and perspectives of what we can take back to those meetings on their behalf. And so I'm always open for that also because, like I say, I don't have all the answers or all the ideas, and there's lots and lots of smart people within our industry that have great suggestions and recommendations. And so that's what we're here for, is we need to have the dialogue, but at the same time, when you don't participate and maybe you don't come to meetings or you don't take the time to shoot an email to someone or make a phone call or the text message or whatever your preferable way of communication is, then that's the ones that I have hard times whenever you hear the negativity, because I'm like, well, give us something that I can take back to these meetings, and we're open to all of them. And like I say, you mentioned the balloon. I think the balloon has had so much traction, and I don't think people really thought it was going to have that. But I see the social media posts with the balloons and the events that the balloon has been to, and it's thousands and hundreds of thousands of views and shares, and I'm like, this is what we want. We're at the end of the day, it's promotion. And so maybe for some people it is kind of a different pill to swallow about a balloon and what's this going to do for me. But at the end of the day, it was just at an international balloon fiesta a few months back that, look at the numbers of the visitors that were here. And for us to be the balloon to get to carry the flag the one morning, to start the event off, and the publicity and the knowledge, and just to even get the conversation started. And so, if anything, the balloon's been a conversation starter.
Big time.
So maybe there's been people that maybe would never approach or mention anything Beef Council wise, but now the balloon at least has been the opening statement of the way to get into those kinds of conversations and maybe get more people engaged and involved, and come have recommendations of where you'd like to see this balloon. And I think we were responsible with it, that if we got the balloon, that we'll be able to have the decals removed, and we can always sell the asset if we have to, so it's not a complete loss, like if we bought a vehicle and depreciate or whatever. But anyway, so it's been I think sometimes people neglect that the time and effort and thought that goes into these decisions. It's not just we woke up one day and said we're buying a balloon and we proceed with it. I mean, it took a lot on your part as far as a pilot, how's this balloon gonna
The insurance.
transported, it's just all those things.
Yeah. No, I love that, and that's a special favorite right now. Well, we love the work that we're doing in the Beef Council, and we so appreciate your support and your work you do as an advocate in the industry too. But maybe can we talk about your ranch and things that talk about the climate and the landscape of New Mexico, and as a rancher, what that means. I think there's special things, and we have images we can use to tell the story too. But talk about the New Mexico's land and landscape and your actual ranching practices.
So as we all know, New Mexico has varying landscapes, and I mean we go probably from a couple thousand feet in elevation to 10,000 feet in elevation, and so it varies. But where we're at, we're like 5,900 feet at our headquarters, and then of course we're fortunate to have some leases that we go to 8,500 feet, and so there's things that come up with all of those. I mean, there's pine needles that the cattle get on those; they can abort their calves, and there's brisket disease that we contend with at elevations that high. And then, of course, come back to headquarters, and there's noxious weed problems, and there's local weed problems, or there's just a whole lot of varying things that can take place. And so we're fortunate. We're on pretty much rolling hills. We do have some irrigated land on our place north of Springer, and then south of Springer and east of Springer, it's just kind of rolling hill kind of thing, but they're all similar in elevation. We're largely a grama grass variety as far as our range grasses, and so we have the normal things people contend with. You have coyotes, you have prairie dogs, you have all that stuff. Wildlife. I mean, we have everything from antelope to now we're seeing elk. After the fires that have taken place, in the last 10 years, it's really brought the wildlife from the higher country to the flats, and so they've established, a new home there, and so it's different things that maybe we didn't have so much as we did in the high country, dealing with the elk being hard on the fences and that kind of thing, bear, mountain lion, those kinds of things, but we now have them on where we're at, and so you adapt and you prepare and plan and try to prevent any potential problems. But it's like with anything, it's just there'll be a day that sometimes it's more chaotic than others, and then other days you couldn't ask for anything better. And so our weather varies. I mean, we'll hit 100 in the summer for a few days, and sometimes for a lot more days than we would like to see. And then there's the winters that, I mean, they can be 20 below or colder. And of course we do receive some wind, and so that always is a factor into our snowstorms as far as drifts and whatnot. But to me, it's a perfect place to be. We get a little of every season, and so to me, when seem to be getting tired of one season, the next one's coming. And so of course it is New Mexico, and so you can have all 4 seasons in one day some days, and so it just that's how it goes. But we're fortunate, and some we rely on pond water, others we have creeks through, and so I think those are all blessings, and they're things that have been in our family for generations. And I just feel totally thrilled that it's where it's at, and that we've been given this opportunity and looking to make improvements to continue to pass this on.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of my favorite things to say is that the amount of expertise a rancher has to have in grasses, and then in weather, or even there's certain lingo that kind of becomes almost like jargon in ranching or in agriculture. It's rainfall and elevation, that we talk about that so much, right? Well, if you talk to somebody who, lives in an apartment in Kansas City and you tell them, I wonder what elevation we're at, that's not even, or how much rainfall we get or whatever, whatever it is. And not to bag on Kansas City, I just lived there for a minute, but those things that are so important to where you live and how you, run your ranch as a business and a lifestyle. And I just always think that's really interesting that you can ask any person in agriculture and they're going to know the average rainfall of where they are. They're going to know what elevation they're at, and they're probably going to know what breeds of grass, right? Where I barely know what kind of grass is in my yard in town, right? I just know it's the one you throw out and you mix it or whatever, Yes. And I always love that expertise and that having to be so in tune with the environment around you.
And you just have to be a resourceful person. I mean, you have to be part mechanic, part contractor, plumber, electrician, soil scientist kind of thing, and combine them all. I mean, and I'm not good at all of those, but I mean, there are people that are, and those are the ones that I like to associate myself with, because I can learn from them so many things, and it's from all different ages. I mean, I've learned from the 90 and 100-year-olds. I have an aunt right now that's 100. I mean, that was one of the last ones born on the ranch in Springer, and there was 18 of them. And so they're just tough people, and the stories that they tell and things, that they mention when visiting with them, I'm like, I have it pretty easy. That you take for granted because you get spoiled with the modern day conveniences.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I think that goes back to what you said about your advocacy and your career and your all the things you do come back to learning from agriculture, right? That open-mindedness, that toughness, that willing to learn anything and adapt, that all helps you be, a better person when you're out in those industry organizations or political situations.
Yes, and definitely working cattle will toughen anyone up because, it's a stressful situation. And so, yeah, sometimes there's some, screaming, yelling, whatever it is. But, I mean, it's all building you to build character. And, I mean, there's going to be good days and bad days. And sometimes you just have to suck it up, for lack of a better word. And the ag industry definitely does a good job of that. And so when I went to get into politics, I think that's why I had a little tougher skin, because I had already, been exposed to a lot of this stuff and critiques and whatnot. And so at the end of the day, you just have to be like, what can I do better tomorrow? And we go on with it, because you can't dwell on what happened in the past. We start
Absolutely.
to get left behind.
Yeah, absolutely. That thick skin is important. I think there's even jokes too about working cattle with a family member or a spouse or something, about if you can make it through that, you can make it through anything. And we only have 7 head of Coriani team roping steers, but we even that, I know that me and my husband are old. Well, there's words said, but we manage, and it's just 7, right? I couldn't imagine a real ranch. That'll be a sight for someone one day. Will you talk about your cattle? What kind of cattle do you run? And then how do you care for their well-being? What are some ways? You kind of already talked about that, but...
Yes. So we run, a majority of them are Black Angus. We do have some Charolais cattle, and then of course we have some Hereford influence and a Hereford cow. But they're a pretty hardy breed. I mean, they pretty much take care of themselves, but we do our part. So we, annually we preg test, and so we vaccinate them, and all in preparation to keep them healthier. And ultimate goal is to keep the mama cow healthy so we can have a healthy calf too. I think if you do some pre-planning and, keep up with vaccination programs and mineral and vitamin programs and those kinds of things, ultimately it helps make everything smoother. I think if we can, our goal is always to have a healthy animal so we can have healthy product to sell. And so that's why it's not always cheap. I mean, people, I think, take for granted what these vaccines cost and what the thought that has to go into it of what vaccination program you need to have on your different ranch, because like we mentioned, it's varying landscapes across the state. And so we make sure we always have a mineral out. Salt's important in our program. We vaccinate for respiratory things, for shipping fevers, because as you've seen, we do take ours on a 40-mile little trek, and then a 5-mile hike up the hill there. And so we're renting trucks. We have them come help us haul our cattle, and so we don't know what's been in those trucks that we're going to be putting our cows in. So we want to make sure that they have all their vaccines, to where whatever it is in there, that we don't have no sickness as a result of it. And most of them are clean trucks and whatnot, but overall, we want to make sure that we're doing our part to make them successful. And so that's why we do test our grass for protein, and then we do the nut bile stuff with the fecal samples, and we send those off so we can get a report back, and it'll kind of show us if there's some deficiencies, so we can get those addressed with our mineral or our cake. When we do buy our cake, it's a sunflower cake, and then we add a trace mineral to that too. So I think it's just like with anything. I think just making sure we're doing our homework to test all these things, and that way we work closely with our vet also, and a few vets actually, and we're always open to new things. And I mean the companies, they are always developing new things or changing patents, and maybe something's newer that I'm not quite aware of, but we work on that. So that's how we handle our situation. So, and if something dies, we try to do a necropsy on it to see what it was. Was it a weed? Was it water? I mean, we've had different things happen along the way. I mean, we've had some alkali poisoning, and they lose their sight for a few days, and so we have to hand feed some, and it comes back, and it's just shocking how resilient the animals really are.
You talked about a couple of things, and I just wanted to, just in case we have consumers, I know we have a lot of producers listening, but the hope is we also have consumers listening to hear the story. But the mineral, the cake, and the salt, that's something that I don't know that everyone might understand. So mineral is a literal tub of minerals, right? So a tub of, maybe a little bit of sweet feed in there too, or sweet something in there to make them eat it. But it has all the things that they might not be getting from those grasses. So when you're talking about, you test the grass, you test the fecal matter, just to make sure that they're getting all their nutrients, just like, a dietitian would say, like our dietitian Kate would say, you got to make sure you're having a variety in your diet to get all your things. That's how you help the variety of the diet in your cattle. And then a salt block, literally cattle, you just have a block of salt, right? They literally need salt to help with their nutrition. And then and that cake. The cake one I always think is a fun one, because that's that one truly is a sweet feed usually, right? But it has other things in it.
Yeah, so ours is a sunflower cake, so it's just sunflower, and it's hard compressed, into a cube. And then, we feed, 4.5 pounds per head per day, 3 times a week. Depending what the weather is. If it's going to be colder, they need more energy and fat to burn, so we'll increase that. If we're finally getting some green grass coming on, so we can reduce that, or the frequency of the feeding. But yeah, the mineral can come in a variety of ways. I mean, they can be in a molasses tub, it can be loose mineral, it can be in a block, and salt too. And a lot of these things, that's what you have to test for. I mean, because some of these, you can be low in copper, and those can impact breed up rates, because magnesium, too much of one or the other can block one or the other, and it can be detrimental as far as being successful with your cattle breeding back, and just all those kinds of things. So it's a lot of science to it that I don't think people realize that we have to factor into those. And so it is dealing with feed reps and nutritionists too, and it all costs money.
Right.
Most of the time they're not going to do this for free. And on top of that, the mineral's not free. I mean, you're looking at, anywhere from $40 to $60 a bag. I mean, some of these tubs, are from $125 to, $400 or $500 a tub, and it just depends.
And they don't last that long.
No, and they can clean those things up in a hurry depending on how many heads you're putting it out for and what they're deficient in. I mean, the animals are pretty smart. They know. I mean, there's different times of the year that they hit the mineral harder, and other times where they're getting it from the grass and whatnot. So it's just kind of keeping aware of the situation, and it's just a matter of checking. I mean, the biggest part of this is being hands-on and being there. I mean, there's some days you go and everything's just fine. It's a short time that you have to be there checking, riding through them. But other days, I mean, there's problems. So, I mean, you just can't really plan too much. You have to have pretty flexible schedule.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's really neat to know that there's so much care and so much knowledge about what the animals are doing. And then, you talked about costs too. And right now everybody's like, oh, beef prices are high, cattle prices are high, ranchers are doing well. And there was actually a really great article that we were interviewed for, or we had a rancher interviewed for, and they were talking about beef prices are high, so our ranchers high on the hog. And the truth of the matter is this is the first year in I think 20 years is what Bronson Corn had said that anybody's able to actually make some money back. Well, that means, but input costs are still high. Everything's more expensive. We all know life is more expensive today than it was 20 years ago. And so just because a rancher might be breaking even or making a profit with cattle prices this year, that doesn't make up for the debt that got them there, the loans on the land, whatever it is that have built it. And so that's just an important thing to remember, that the economics of ranching are rough.
Yes. And I think people have misconstrued a lot of this with the beef price, and they don't realize that there are different compartments, or however you want to put it, throughout the chain of it. I mean, from cow-calf to grocery store meat locker or whatever. It's a lot of inputs. There's a lot of different entities involved, and there's different stalker guys, feeders, there's processors, there's a lot involved in all of that. But overall, the input costs for anything within the ag industry, like you said, is high. I mean, most of the things we're dealing with, the equipment to harvest is expensive. The just fencing material, just the hay cost, the cake cost, the truck to put it out in. I mean, they're not $20,000 trucks anymore, and I mean, we're not even talking about buying the fancy one.
No, it's like the roll-up windows and even the tires, anything.
There's still $60,000-$80,000 that you have to account for, and so just the horse trailer that's involved, the trucking that's involved, and the cost of diesel at over $3.50 a gallon average, or whatever it is right now. Those all play into the factor. So I mean, roughly it's $4 to $5 a mile to transport these things, and so you do that for 4 or 5 trucks or however many you're talking, and it all adds up. And so yes, Bronson hit the nail right on the head. It is nice to have a little breathing room for once in our life, because most of the time the budget is really, it's a thin margin with the cow-calf operation. And so many years we broke even. So we did it because we loved it, not because we were getting rich off of it. And just the increase in land values and prices, and trying to expand, or and then just the preparation for the ranch to be inherited by the next generation, of what you have to set up different entities and LLCs and different things like that, to try to help with what could potentially be a tax burden in the end. So where you're not leaving the next generation in a bad situation to where they end up having to liquidate some of the ranch to pay what they need to pay to inherit it. And so a lot of people don't see all the planning that has to take place in order to make it to this point. And even I don't know all the ins and outs, of what my parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have been through the years. But just the short time that I've kind of had the reins of this has been a learning curve. And and it's a evolving thing every year. I mean, what we were doing in 1970 is, some things are similar and some things have had to go through quite a bit of change, and we had to adapt and whatever to stay competitive and to stay marketable at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, it's something that's really hard to build a budget off of for the next year, because we have no idea what calf prices would be from 2020 to 2026. I mean, it varies. And so, when we see it like it was and get a contract like this year, well, we are grateful for it. And but at the same time, we got to put some in the bank, because we don't know for the next time when it's not going to be this good.
Right. Or when the drought will come, or when something will come and
Yep.
cause issues. So that kind of leads into a good question is, so it's hard. The margins are tight. It's, elk are tearing down your fence. The local weed is coming. All these things, right? There's things that are hard. So why do you do what you do? Why do you love this?
Because I couldn't see myself doing anything different. And you do it because of the people you get to work with. I mean, I'm fortunate I get to work with my parents on the daily, and it's a family operation. It's a true family operation, and we're blessed with good neighbors and great friends, and that help us when we need help. And they'll go the extra mile for us. I mean, last night, me and one of my friends, we were hauling a load of cows, and we would get home at midnight and then leave in the morning to be here in time for this, and head back tonight because we got to get back to,
More to do.
we weaned, and so the weather, it's raining, and so it's cool. So we need to ride through the calves to make sure we don't have no sick calves. And if we do, so we can get them doctored. So it's the lifestyle, I think, that chose me, and I have no regrets about it. And we do it because we love it. And there's so many beneficial things to it. And I mean, the views every day in our office, I mean, some days it's really dusty and some days it might be a little snowy, and everything in between that. And that's what we do it for. And we do it for our families. And my goal is that my nephews will take this over, and so I want to do the best I can, like my parents and my uncle did for me and my grandparents, so we could have this and continue to build upon it, and continue to improve it, to where it's not just a benefit to our family, but all the things that we sustain on our land, from the wildlife, from the birds, the animals, all that stuff. There's a benefit for all of us involved. And so I think it's just something that maybe not everyone would enjoy, but for those of us that do, I'm happy that we get the opportunity, because driving in today, like, there's the traffic and everyone's in such a hurry, and so we take for granted, I think, sometimes the laid back lifestyle that I do get. And I think it is hectic some days, but I look at just here, traffic for an hour in the morning, like it's way more hectic in 1 hour here than it is for me in 8 hours up there. But to each their own. I respect the ones that enjoy this kind of lifestyle, and I'm appreciative of the lifestyle I get to live over there. And most of the time, we have a lot of people come visit us, and so they're always saying that they like it, and they're this is cool and whatever. And I have to agree with them, because I'm fortunate that
Oh yeah.
we are where we are.
Oh, it is. And I think we need people like you, right? Because we need both, right? We need folks in the city doing things. We need people, whatever, but we really need people that live in small towns that love that lifestyle and are willing to deal with those small margins to feed the world, to clothe us, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing that you and others love that lifestyle.
Yes, and I think a lot of people like conveniences, and we do too, but we have them in our own way.
Right.
Over there, it's just it takes some planning. I mean, it's not a trip to the grocery store on the daily, so when you do plan, you have to plan ahead. And a lot of people, maybe that's not their cup of tea, but for us it is. And like I say, I wouldn't trade it for nothing else.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite small town anecdotes is that I had a friend who moved to a small town for the first time, and she married a farmer, and she was saying they'd have friends over and they'd be working on something, because that's what you do in agriculture. Family and friends come over and you help with something, and then he'd say, "Yeah, come over for dinner," and she'd go, "What dinner?" She'd have to, come up with something. And so she, learned the first time as she's scraping, tortillas and cheese and ground beef or whatever to make quesadillas or something, she's scraping through the fridge, as she learned to always have a frozen pizza in the fridge, or she'd even meal prep, and she'd make, whatever you could freeze, and lasagna and all these things that you could freeze, so that her husband could be generous and say, "Here, I'll feed you." And she'd pull out food or whatever. And that's something, I live in Albuquerque. I get Walmart Plus delivery, and I could have my groceries. I could order them now, and they could be there in a couple hours for no extra charge. And so that, difference in convenience is so interesting in that small town of having to prepare. But then also you have these wonderful small town grocery stores, and small town where, you get to see everyone and the person that owns the grocery store, right? I think you were helping him with a food drive recently, right? Yes. So there's that trade-off, right?
Yeah. So, and I think, you just adapt to your surrounding. And so when you don't have those things readily available, you just rely on what you've known. And so that's what we've known. We're fortunate to have a grocery store in Springer. We have a really good grocery store in Cimarron too, that's close by. And so they're both family owned establishments, and that's what we like to support. And they support us, they support our communities, they support our forage programs, they support all the things that I'm involved with. And so it's really a cool way of life. And the whole neighboring concept, they come help us and we go help them. And it's just great to have those kinds of relationships. And the trust that we can have within our friends and neighbors and families, and where sometimes you might not even know the neighbor, here, or they're maybe just not the social people. We're social people. We talk to our neighbors, we visit. And
I think I have a great picture for that of you visiting with someone driving by as you're pushing cattle on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone is open to conversation.
And so many people have so many questions, because I think so many that are removed from the ranch now, generation or 2 generations away, maybe even a 3rd generation removed now, I think it still intrigues them, because many of times in the conversations I have across the country with, traveling to these meetings or whatnot, they're like, "Oh, my grandfather did that," or "My great-grandfather did that." And so the curiosity of it is still there. And so I think that's one good thing that we haven't lost. And so I think it's good that these things are never comfortable to do, but at the same time, I think it's good so people can see where we're coming from, and that we are good people. We just maybe not know how to communicate with you exactly, because I have not much of a I post on social media or whatever, but that's not my only avenue for communication.
Right. No, I love that. And I think that's something. I live in the city. I actually have great neighbors who some of them are podcast listeners, so shout out to them. But that neighboring thing, and then if you're ever in the country, right, or you're out in a small town, you drive by a rancher on a horse, you roll down a window, I guarantee they're going to say hello and they're going to be open to things. I haven't met a rancher that wouldn't be. And knowing more about where your food comes from is the whole goal of this podcast, is the whole, an important part of what we're focusing on in the Beef Council and all of that. So asking questions is always a good thing.
For sure, because a lot of times I think people get their information from large entertainment companies, and so they have these kind of perceptions of what really goes on. But at the end of the day, those are used for ratings and whatnot.
And sensationalized.
Yes, and so it's not. It's really down to earth people, families that are just working hard every day to do what we need to do to provide for our families and to achieve goals within our own operations. And that's most of the time for us. It's just to make things better. And so we work at it every chance we get and try to keep up with the latest trends and see what portions of those we can incorporate into our operation to make it more successful, make it more responsible, for the environment, for just everything that we're involved with.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's that conversation doesn't happen in every business, right?
Right.
That conversation that you're working to, protect the entire environment, protect the land, you're working, and the wildlife and the livestock. And then also that generational thing. You don't have that many businesses or entire industries that focus so hard on generational, that they're going to take care of the land so that in 100 years, their family and their relatives can continue that. So I think that's a really special thing in the agriculture industry, in ranching, and in ranching in New Mexico, is it's a generational thing, and it's important. Family is at the center of it all.
Yeah, and once you get out of the family, then it's back to soil health, it's back to animal health. It's and the other rewarding thing about being in this industry is it's a faith-driven industry, and I think that's important, that we always have the good Lord at the center of everything we're doing, because just watching what we get to see, animals having, calving, and rainstorms that fill dirt ponds, and, all these things that, like, there's no other way to explain it other than someone else is watching over us to make these things available to us.
Oh man, absolutely. And we love to tell people too, New Mexico is God's country, right? We're pretty biased. Particular. Yeah, not biased. Yes, biased. Yes, absolutely. Well, I so appreciate it. So I have maybe 2 more questions. What is a piece of advice you'd give someone that might want to follow in your footsteps into ranching, or even just something? We'll just stay with that question. What's advice you'd give to someone that wants to follow?
So I give advice as, if this is something that you want to do it. And not everyone starts out with an inherited ranch or a large size scale ranch, or whatever it may be. Maybe it's a farm, maybe it's a ranch, whatever you're interested to, but don't compare yourself to others. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that I don't sit there and keep score. What we have, we're fortunate to have, and we're blessed to have it, and it's comfortable for us and for what we have going on. And there's others that maybe have a little less, and there's others that have a whole lot more. But at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And so sometimes I think it's sometimes, people get discouraged because of the cost of things. Well, so be it. If it's 100 acres you can afford, do it. And you'll never, and work hard at it, and you'll be surprised, if you continue with it, that your interest is to grow that, or just to make that area better, so be it. At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you, but don't, I think a lot of times, we look at things and say, like, I can't do this, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You just have to go try it, and you'll never, you might fail along the way, but that's the only way you're going to get better or go anywhere, is by putting yourself out there and taking risks, and you'll be surprised what really can come about from it. So my thing is just do it. I don't think you need to sit there and question a whole lot of things and whatever, if it's a love that you have, and you just have to go into it with reality in the background, that you more than likely aren't going to get rich doing this. Right. So if your goal is to be rich and, some of those other things, rich in money, because I feel like we're rich in our values, and I think we're rich with our family history. And so there's different ways to look at that. And so, but if it's the monetary thing,
right,
be aware that it's going to be, I think, more going out than coming in. But at the end of the day, I just say, do what makes you happy, and don't compare yourself to anyone else.
That's great advice in any situation, right? We shouldn't look elsewhere. My last question for everyone is, what is your current favorite way to eat beef, or maybe even a favorite recipe?
So I like a fillet, and I like it cooked medium, and I'm not real big fan of running the taste of the meat with A1 or Worcestershire or any of that other stuff. I just like a good old steak that's been 7 minutes on one side and 7 on the other, and some people like it a little more rare than that, but for me that's how I like it. And of course, some people like to question all the other things, but I love a salad and a baked potato with it, and we're good to go for another day.
Honestly, I love that. That's sounds like my order at a restaurant I went to the other day. I love it. Well, cool. Well, I so appreciate your willingness to be on the podcast, even with, barely any notice. And then also all the work you do for the industry. And then lastly, for the work you do to help feed the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Behind the Burger is a podcast produced by the New Mexico Beef Council with the goal of telling the stories of the cattlemen and cattlewomen of the New Mexico beef industry. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. If you would like more information, please visit nmbeef.com. Whether it be a burger, a steak, or another beef dish, we hope you are enjoying beef at your next meal.